My sketchbook is a witness of what I am experiencing, scribbling things whenever they happen. Vincent van Gogh. Spring has burst in my home of North Bay, Ontario, unlocking waterways and migratory passages. The surge of movement and growth has seeped into my studio and my artistic practice. With the awakening of the natural world, a few weeks ago, I found myself searching for a stronger connection to the world that I paint. When I decided to move from Toronto to Northern Ontario back in 2014, one of the things that drew me to this place was the seamless integration of nature into the fabric of human civilization. But, like so many others, when the pandemic struck and we were encouraged to stay home, I developed an unhealthy addiction to my phone as a way of averting loneliness. As the world slowly opened up again, I remained hooked on my phone until I made the conscious decision this spring to reestablish my relationship with nature and venture back into the woods. The natural world teaches us that everything has a season. Change is how life expresses itself. Stagnation is resisted by nature. There is always growth, decay, life, and death. We appreciate joy because we have experienced pain. Sometimes we teach, and sometimes we learn. Being able to teach painting online through YouTube has been an incredible gift, and I absolutely love sharing my process with the world. But I feel the strongest as a teacher when I myself am still learning. So to that end, I decided to prioritize becoming a student again by carving out a new sketchbook practice. I signed up for a sketchbook workshop under world-renowned artist Dina Brodsky and joined an international community of artists who felt the same desire to commit themselves to establishing time in their busy schedules to create work with sincerity. Sketchbooks are where artists store a piece of their soul. It's where their hopes, dreams, imaginings, and ideas are given permission to breathe. I've been so inspired by the sketchbooks of Dina Brodsky from the United States, Elena Limkina from Russia, and Gizem Bozkurt from Turkey. I've linked them all in the description below so you can visit their outstanding work. Each artist has transformed their sketchbook into a work of art unto itself. They're like living diaries where images and text come together to tell the story of their lives. I decided to give my sketchbook a theme. I would turn it into a northern fairy tale, a storybook of the rivers, creatures, sunsets, and crashing waves that I had come to take for granted. I would use the sketchbook as a tool to rediscover and give purpose to exploring. We all lead such busy lives now that I was struggling to give myself permission to do something as simple as walking in the woods because it would take time away from precious work. But with the sketchbook, being in nature has become an artistic mission, one that I can prioritize as an essential component of my practice. The first place I ventured was the Marsh in Laurier Woods, a conservation area tucked into the heart of North Bay. Laurier Woods is unique in Ontario because it was established and safeguarded to this day by residents of the city. Here I found everything I needed to begin my sketchbook journey, though it was the boardwalk and tall grasses that caught my eye. With my reference photos in hand and the spring air in my lungs, I headed back to the studio to begin my journey of documenting our beautiful home. Painting on paper is a completely different experience from painting on canvas. I found that the paper was absolutely inhaling the paint, and that thick applications were needed. But something else happened as I worked. I stopped caring so much about perfection and started getting lost in the making. I decided not to do a pencil outline and go straight in with the paint. It became more about capturing a feeling as opposed to a perfect likeness. For those interested in starting a sketchbook, I truly don't think there's one right way to do it, though many artists have their preferences. Whether you're working on hot press or cold press paper, with acrylics, inks, watercolors, oils, or gouaches, the most important thing to do is to start, experiment, test out, and see what works for you. I used a cold press Strathmore watercolor sketchbook for this piece, but I have ordered a hot press sketchbook to truly test out the difference. But that's the beauty of sketchbooks. At their core, they are a work in progress, a way to evolve and explore. Like nature itself, they counter stagnation by forcing you to practice and get out of your comfort zone. As I continued to work, blocking in the forms and colors before sculpting it with lights and darks, I realized how present working on the sketchbook made me feel. There was no temptation to look at my phone, no desire to be anywhere else but where I was, doing what I was doing. Reliving my Marsh adventure through the strokes and movements of my brushes felt like pure magic. Near the end of the sketch, I was stressing about the fact that the grasses weren't really popping enough from the page. I had to keep reminding myself this is just a sketch. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just try something else. Finally, I added in pure tufts of white on the tops of the grasses, and suddenly everything seemed to make sense. I rarely use pure values of white or black, but in this case, it was exactly what was warranted. After 2 hours of losing myself in the process, I found myself holding a visual memory of my morning in the woods. And just like that, I found myself a new addiction in the form of a bound paper book. John Muir, the famous mountaineer and conservationist poet, wrote the lines, "And into the forest I go, to lose my mind and find my soul." So often in art, we get caught up in this idea of perfection, and it can be crippling. But nature and sketchbooks are antithetical to perfection. They embrace the wild madness that is imperfection and celebrate it in all its forms. In addition to creating future tutorials showing the techniques and practices I use to create my paintings, I also want to take you deeper into the woods, to come with me as we explore the wildest parts of this country and regain and reclaim that part of ourselves that has been lost. So grab your sketchbooks, summon your courage, and let's adventure into the messy, beautiful, wild world and make new entries into our life story.